Welcome back to Hardware Unboxed. Today we're checking out ViewSonic's latest ultra-wide monitor that focuses solely on the gaming market. It's the XG350R-C, a 35-inch 3440 by 1440 MVA display with a maximum refresh rate of 100Hz and 1800R curvature and FreeSync. It retails for around $700 or 960 Aussie, so it's a little on the expensive side, but we'll see how it performs and whether it stacks up to other popular monitors in this category. Aside from the specs I just mentioned, ViewSonic have included several other gamer features, including RGB lighting, something ViewSonic calls clear motion, which is basically backlight strobing, and black stabilization. This is combined with low input lag and very basic support for HDR10 content. However, when I took this monitor out of the box, I wasn't overly impressed with the design. It's a chunky monitor, not just in terms of the display unit itself, but also when it comes to bezels. A lot of monitors these days are moving to slimmer designs, but it seems ViewSonic kinda hasn't got the message here because it's bigger than even my Acer Predator X34, which was released back in 2015. The base as well is pretty massive. I know some people prefer these designs to the wide three-pronged stands, but this thing really takes up a lot of room on a desk. The good news is that this has led to an adjustable stand with all of swivel, tilt, and height adjustability. On your more budget offerings, it's rare to get height adjustment, so this is a welcome inclusion, and ViewSonic does it well with this sturdy construction. On the rear, we're definitely moving into gamer territory here with the RGB LED lighting and some gamer patterns. This isn't as egregious as, say, an Asus ROG design, but it also lacks that sleek and subtle aesthetic that I personally enjoy. There's also LED lighting in the base of the stand which shines towards the front. A headphone rest that pops out of the stand on the back is included as well. The build quality is also rather unimpressive. I wouldn't say it's bad, but the heavy use of stock standard black plastic doesn't exactly give the XG350R-C a premium look. When you combine this with the general chunkiness, you'd be more inclined to suggest it was a budget display rather than something priced near $700. The array of ports is good: 2 HDMI 2.0, a DisplayPort input, a basic 3-port USB hub, and a 3.5mm audio jack. You do get internal speakers. They're not the worst I've heard, but I can't imagine gamers using them for their in-game audio. The on-screen display is both good and bad. I like the inclusion of a directional toggle, but ViewSonic has still somehow made it difficult to navigate by continually switching which buttons perform which actions depending on the area of the menu you are in. Bit of a nitpick, but I found it annoying. On top of that, the menu's color scheme is very difficult to read on certain backgrounds. I often found myself needing to put a white window behind the menu just so I could see what was going on. However, there are some useful features in here. Clear Motion, ViewSonic's brand name for backlight strobing or black frame insertion, provides additional clarity to motion in some gaming environments. I'm personally not a fan as the backlight brightness drops and you can't use it alongside FreeSync, but some people love this sort of feature. There's also a wide variety of game modes, color settings, and so on. I was a bit surprised at the lack of cheat crosshairs though, given how ubiquitous that feature is among other brands. One thing I should mention is my unit shipped with 2 dead pixels in the far bottom right corner in close proximity to each other. This does happen from time to time. It's not really something everyone will experience. I think I was just unlucky here with my unit. Let's quickly talk about the refresh rate here before we move into other performance metrics. This is a 3440 by 1440 panel at 100Hz, which I think still qualifies as high refresh these days, despite the availability of 144 and even 200Hz at this resolution. It's a smoother experience than 60Hz. The step up to 144Hz is noticeable, but I feel for a lot of gamers, especially those who don't have a high-end GPU, this refresh rate is very nice. The resolution is 1440p class, which I feel is perfect for gaming and productivity tasks, and the 21:9 aspect ratio adds that bit of immersion to your gameplay. As someone that games on an ultra-wide, I definitely recommend it. ViewSonic is providing adaptive sync with low frame rate compensation here, which is great to see. It works perfectly on both AMD and Nvidia GPUs as well, so no complaints here and certainly no issues with flickering. 1440p ultra-wide high refresh monitors have matured a lot in recent years to the point where even VA offerings have decent response times, in contrast to some non-ultra-wide displays with similar specs. Using the ultra-fast overdrive setting, I recorded a gray-to-gray average response time of 5.13 milliseconds, which as you can see is one of the fastest VA response time averages I've measured. Typically for a 16:9 monitor, these panels sit around 7 to 9 milliseconds, but for some reason these ultra-wides are just a lot faster. The XG350R-C is around 0.7 milliseconds faster than the 34-inch VA equivalent of this panel you can see in budget offerings like Kogan's 34-inch ultrawide. The difference here being 34-inch panels are manufactured by Samsung, whereas AU Optronics makes the 35-inch models. This ViewSonic monitor is also a little faster than the best LG IPS panels have to offer with this resolution, as seen in the LG 34GK950F and its 6.1 millisecond transition time. Still, there's a bit of a cluster in that 5 to 6 millisecond bracket with not much difference between each option. In terms of input lag, again a decent result here for the XG350R-C with under 4 milliseconds of latency, which is within the usual bracket of gaming monitors. The 34GK950F is the fastest ultrawide I've tested at 2.4 milliseconds of latency, but we're talking about a 1 millisecond difference here, nothing to get excited about. Brightness is good. 330 nits out of the box is going to be too bright for most users, and without any real HDR support, there's nothing to be concerned about. The contrast ratio, however, is a weak spot for AU Optronics ultrawide panel. It sits at just 1900 to 1 for the XG350R-C, compared to around 3000 to 1 for monitors that use the Samsung panel. Let's move in now to take a look at color performance. The XG350R-C is a standard gamut monitor that focuses on sRGB. In my testing, it exceeds the sRGB spectrum slightly, but not by enough to be DCI-P3 compliant. Not that this matters, sRGB is most important for PC usage today, whether that's gaming or application use. Out of the box, this monitor is surprisingly decent in terms of its calibration. A white point of 6554K is excellent, and if it weren't for a bit of inaccuracy in the darker area of the gamma curve, we'd be looking at a sub 2.0 delta E average. When viewing saturation performance, we do hit that sub 2.0 delta E average, which is great and helped massively by the accurate white point, and then we also get a better than average result when viewing ColorChecker numbers. Considering most gaming grade monitors ship with very little calibration to speak of, I'm pleased to see near accurate results from the ViewSonic XG350R-C out of the box. With a few small tweaks and changes to the color controls in the on-screen display, I was able to tighten things up further with sub 2.0 delta E averages across the board, which is a very strong showing. And of course, we can go one step further with a full calibration, the results of which you can see here. Patreon members can download the ICC profile I created for this monitor if you want to experiment with it, although due to panel variance it won't create accurate results for all owners. While this monitor does deliver relatively strong color results, excellent response times and good input lag, there is one aspect that really lets it down, and that's the panel coding. This isn't something I normally talk about in reviews because it's not usually an issue, but with the XG350R-C I immediately spotted something strange about the way this monitor displays text. It's a subtle effect, but this monitor seems to have a bit of smudginess to it. Text lacks the sharpness and clarity of other 3440 by 1440 monitors I've recently reviewed, and when viewing the display through a magnifying glass, I put this down to something strange about the coding that's diffusing the light slightly, which is creating this smudge issue. The subtle lack of sharpness is almost like the monitor is running at a sub-native resolution, except it's actually working as intended. It's a really weird one because, again, the screen coding isn't something I normally have any issues with, but on this problem alone, I'd almost find it hard to recommend this monitor when similar options exist that give greater clarity. Moving on to uniformity, again, these are pretty good results for an ultrawide. We're getting typical fall off along the outer edges, but the central zone is reasonably accurate, definitely more so than some curved ultrawides I've tested. With all the testing done, the data in and the comparisons made, I think the ViewSonic XG350R-C is one of the rare monitors that I can't really recommend. And this isn't just from a value or price perspective. The monitor is expensive, and I'll talk about that shortly. It's also from a technical standpoint. There are just a few too many issues here for a monitor in a category that's mature and filled with options. To me, there are 4 key problems. The smudgy screen coding is a rare issue, but an annoying one that reduces the clarity for an otherwise decently high resolution panel. The design is bulky, not all that appealing, and built from unimpressive materials. The on-screen menu is flawed in both its navigation and color scheme, which makes it very difficult to use, and the contrast ratio is lower than equivalent monitors that opt for Samsung's VA panel over AU Optronics. There are some positives here. Response time and input lag performance is great. It's not outstandingly better than equivalent monitors, but it's still very good. Out of the box color performance is better than I expected and better than average, and it does come with features like a height adjustable stand, backlight strobing modes, and RGB lighting. but unfortunately the cons are compounded by a price tag that's far too high in today's market. At $700, a 3440 by 1440 ultra-wide really needs to be offering a higher refresh rate than just 100Hz to justify that price tag. It's only $100 more to get the Acer Predator X34P or LG 34GK950G. Both are all-round better monitors with a 120Hz refresh rate and full G-Sync support. Of course, not everyone can afford the extra $100, which is why for budget-conscious 3440 by 1440 buyers, I'd point to the more entry-level offerings in this category. Sure, monitors such as the $450 ViewSonic GN34C or MSI MAG341CQ don't offer features like a height-adjustable stand or backlight strobing, but there is no way those features are worth spending an extra $250 on. To make matters worse, these cheaper options actually deliver better picture quality. Response time and input lag results are similar, but the contrast from Samsung's cheaper VA panel is higher, and you don't get the weird coding issue that this ViewSonic monitor has. I also find the price quite strange, to be honest. Here in Australia, ViewSonic also sell the VX3515 2K PC HDW, a monitor with a mouthful of a name, but one that offers a 3440 by 1440 resolution and 100Hz refresh rate for just 500 Aussie dollars. It competes strongly with similar options like the ViewSonic and MSI monitors I just mentioned, and it's one I'd be considering if it's available in your region. Yet with this very monitor on the market, ViewSonic decided to sell their new ultra-wide at $1,100 locally, with current discounts bringing that down to around $960. That's around double the price, which just seems insane to me when the key differences are a few gamer-specific features and a better stand. Really not sure what ViewSonic were thinking. So those are my thoughts. Unfortunately, this display just isn't a great value proposition and has a few too many flaws for my liking. That other ViewSonic monitor I mentioned is great value and is worth checking out, as are the ViewSonic and MSI models, or alternatively, some of the higher end ultra-wides with better refresh rates. I think going in either of those directions is a better idea right now. Subscribe to get more monitor reviews in your inbox. Consider supporting us on Patreon, where you can enjoy some of our behind the scenes content and exclusive Discord community. And I'll catch you in the next one.